Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, that intro went a little bit faster than I expected, but hey, we're here. I want to make sure that I was here at least reasonably on time for PCE, because I'm still a little mad about missing all of the action yesterday. So we got a few minutes though, so let's come in and check out the overnight action. You have gold rollover here. See the volume profiles. Okay, so here in the treasuries, man, yesterday was a bit of a whippy day. So we did get hammered pretty hard by the GDP numbers, but we recovered almost all of it before like slowly declining afterwards. And it's kind of the same thing as before, which is that they're selling in the treasuries, but not until much, much later in the session. Then we got the S&P 500. Well, they had like a really good rally and kind of like all fizzled before the end of the session. They are trying to crawl it back here. I do kind of think that we should develop a range somewhere down in here after a while. We can only hope. I mean, it sucks when equities are going down for everybody, right? Oil getting a bit of a bounce yesterday, so they might be starting to develop a new range there. And then we got gold and silver also kind of, well, not as much, but they do appear to be building a range. Copper just kind of sliding along the bottom there. The Japanese yen. So the Japanese yen at one point yesterday was looking amazing, but they sold off really hard with the rest of the treasuries. And then Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin rallying back up again, huh? Well, that's very interesting. So that's basically where we're at. You can see up on my chart in the upper left, we have news in about 4 minutes. Good morning, Octavius Uzi. Thank goodness it's Friday. It has felt like it's a little bit longer of a week. But maybe that's, for me, is because I start my vacation today. So I will be gone next week. So no stream all next week, which sucks because there is a Federal Reserve meeting and it's a pretty important one. I will still be around. Don't get any fish, sneaky ideas. I will still be here. I just will not be streaming next week, okay? We'll still be on Discord. We'll be talking about it over there. And I think I'm going to be spending most of my time writing scripts for the channel and working on Python for a hedge fund strategy. That's my plan. So, in a few minutes, I do have some food. I kind of cut my breakfast short to try and be here on time. So I'm going to take a few bites here. All right, here we go. Not going to touch this initial thing, but okay, I'm seeing movement, but I haven't heard the number yet. Okay, so year over year 2.5 versus expected 2.4, and month over month. Core PCE spot 2 versus an expected 0.16. Summer spending spot 3 versus expects 3. Personal income lower than anticipated at spot 2 versus spot 4. And personal consumption month over month lower than expected spot 2 versus spot 3. So that actually looks to me possibly slightly dovish. But you can see here the market, they moved around a lot. There was a lot of volatility, but they aren't entirely sure what to do with it. So I think that this is one where I think it could move more from here, but we have to wait and kind of see them sort it out a little bit. Because they might, you know, as they dig into these numbers and so forth a little bit more, they might, you know, they might all kind of coalesce on a direction. Well, oh, did we finish our playlist? Yes, we did. You know, the playlist, the first song in the playlist, it's not like my favorite song or anything like that, but the first like 2 seconds of it is really great. It's really great. Super good drum fill. Yeah, I'm going to finish this and we got some things to talk about. Well, look at that dollar. The dollar is falling there. That could be an important clue as to where the rest of the markets end up going, because right now in the treasuries, it's a little fuzzy. It's a little fuzzy in equities, although I do see a little bit of selling over there. But the dollar is very clearly being sold off of this news. All right. So, what do we got this morning to talk about? Well, yesterday, it was actually like 2-3 days ago, the Democrat National Committee announced after like a rule-making session or something to that effect that candidates basically had like 2 days to declare that they were going to run for president and to get 50 pledged delegates. And that was kind of going to be the deadline. And if they didn't meet the deadline, then they were going to go ahead with their plan to do the like roll call and vote before the convention. So this is kind of an important thing because at a convention, one of the things that you can do at a convention is you can come in and you can say, I would like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and we suspend the schedule. And if the delegates vote yes, then at that point you can like pretty much do whatever you want. So this whole thing with like the delegates are already pledged to Kamala and like nobody else can step in. If you suspended the rules, you could do that. But if they do the roll call before the convention, that pretty much eliminates the chances of any kind of fun convention shenanigans from happening. So, yeah, the convention is going to be a show. Well, I don't think that it will. I think that nobody has declared, and it's going to be Kamala, and they're going to do the roll call like next Tuesday or Thursday, I think it was, and that's going to be it, I think. I've never seen Trump campaign back off and shirk the way it has since they shooed Kamala in. You think so? I don't know. Well, we'll think about that in a second. But first, I just wanted to establish that it seems clear that Kamala is going to be the nominee. And what is the headline this morning? Now that it's pretty much assured that they can't sneak somebody else in. Now the Obamas endorse Kamala Harris. So here's Zero Hedge's story with the Democrat corporate media machine fully propping up Vice President Kamala Harris following President Biden's shock announcement on Sunday that he's abandoning his 2024 presidential campaign. It was only a matter of time before former President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama endorsed Vice President Harris as the Democrat presidential nominee. Earlier this week, Michelle and I called our friend Kamala Harris. We told her we think she'll make a fantastic president of the United States and that she has our full support, Barack Obama posted on X Friday morning. Barack continued, "At this critical moment for our country, we're going to do everything we can to make sure she wins in November. We hope you'll join us." We're doomed if she becomes president. I'm really concerned if she becomes president. Elon Musk endorsing Trump to the tune of $45 million a month, and he still fiddlesticks on his dopey social media site with comparatively zero reach, abandoning 90 million followers on Twitter. Meanwhile, every institution in the country is coalescing behind Harris. And the assassination was basically fart in the wind in terms of like, yeah, the media is not talking about it like at all anymore, which is pretty wild. In case there was any question about whether the media puts its thumb on the scale by controlling our attention, they absolutely do, yes. It's interesting here. We're continuing to see the treasuries rally here as the dollar falls. Well, so here's the thing. First of all, I think this Obama endorsing Kamala is kind of like, well, the Obamas realizing, I don't think that they really want her to be the nominee, but I think it's the Obamas realizing that it is pretty much a done deal. Nobody can stop Kamala. I also kind of, there's still this theory in the back of my mind that Joe Biden did not want to exit the race, even after this whole, like, did he have a medical emergency? They did say that he had COVID, and that's kind of what prompted him to get out. But when you look at the address that he gave the nation, the note that his wife wrote, I don't think that he wanted to drop out. So I think that I think that coup is probably the wrong word, but I think that Kamala forced him out, possibly by saying that if you don't drop out, we'll invoke the Ninth Amendment against you, or whichever one it is. Basically, declare you mentally incompetent to be president and install Kamala as president, essentially. I think that that's a strong possibility that that's what happened. We would have no way to know, but I think that that's, it's 25th, you're right. 25th Amendment. I think there's a strong possibility that it happened. There's no way for us to know. Okay. Another thing, just like to address the comments here. Elon Musk denied that he ever said he was donating $45 million a month to Donald Trump. He was out yesterday on Twitter denying that he ever said that. And I'm like, what the heck? Yes, you did. And then you go and you look on Twitter. He did have a tweet, but he like edited the tweet. And I think that he's playing loose with definitions, because I don't think that he ever said he's going to donate $45 million to Donald Trump, but rather he's going to donate $45 million a month to pro-Republican and pro-Trump super PACs. So, but just no. That's the thing that's going around. Okay. But here's what I see. In terms of this first week of campaigning. So what has Kamala done? What has Kamala done with her first week of campaigning? Well, for one thing, Benjamin Netanyahu came and spoke to Congress. And instead of being there for that joint session of Congress for Benjamin Netanyahu to speak with them, and instead of doing the statesman-like thing that you would expect a future president would do by going and being there for the speech, she went and spoke at like a sorority somewhere. So she snubbed the president of Israel. And they have decided that their campaign theme, at least starting out on social media, is going to be, oh my gosh, it's so funny. I've lost the word, the term. What was it going to be? Like, not rude girl summer. What is, oh, brat. That's right. Brat summer. Oh my gosh, Brett, you're so fast. It's funny that you know, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, a social media, music star named Charlie XCX, who, by the way, there's something that really bothers me about this girl is everybody's saying Charlie XCX and this like new Gen Z movement. She's not Gen Z. She talks about putting music on MySpace. That's like the most millennial thing ever. Anyways, I digress. Charlie XCX's album is Brat Summer. And so there's a social media campaign out there for it. It's all over TikTok. And Kamala Harris has decided that she wants to hitch her wagon to that. What does Brat Summer mean? Brat Summer is like, I'm not going to get up early and get my hair done and be all nice, proper girl or anything. I'm just going to lounge around and look messy. Is basically Brat Summer and do what I want. And I think a lot of it is kind of based in the idea of like doing what you want regardless of what the patriarchy is saying you should do, right? And so Kamala Harris wants to hitch her wagon to that. Now, usually when I see like campaign themes, directions like this, it is because the candidate likes it. It's like the candidate follows that person, thinks it's funny, something like that, and they're going for it. All right. Which honestly, as a campaign theme, is literally the worst campaign theme that she could possibly choose. So, first of all, like being a brat, you're running for president. Like, good grief. This is a serious thing. The security of our nation is impacted here. Okay. We need to be serious. And the whole thing is that Donald Trump's big thing, like what is the thing that he wants to be his strength and that he's basically always based his whole persona on, is being tough. Being tough and serious, right? So, like, choosing Brat Summer, like, literally plays right into Donald Trump's hands. Plays right into his hands. And again, when I see these sorts of things, it's usually because the candidate really likes it. Okay. So, in summary, what has Kamala Harris done with the first week of her quote unquote presidential campaign? 2 really disastrous decisions in her campaign. She is running an extremely poor campaign. If this was a Democrat primary and there was going to be debates and all of this time and there weren't any, we hadn't voted on things yet and everything, she would be doing very poorly. Donors would be concerned. People would be telling her they don't like the strategy. And like, this is why you have primaries, guys, because you are building an organization, you're building a campaign so that can then go on and tackle the general election. And, that is like an iterative process. You don't just like one day supercalifragilistic and boom, and all of a sudden you have this campaign is all set up and everything. Like, you have to gain people, you have to have, learn from your mistakes a little bit and how you need to structure things, right? And then that eventually structure kind of translates over to when you're president, right? But she did not have to go through the primaries and did not have to go through that kind of refiner's fire. And it really shows. It really shows, and she's running a disastrous campaign. So, in my opinion, I think that Kamala Harris has already peaked. I think that you will see a ratings bump, like, after the Democrat convention. But after that, it is all downhill, guys. I really think that it's going to be all downhill. The issue is, she's going to win because Trump's campaign is barely trying. I don't know about that. Trump is out there. He is campaigning. He is doing events. He has been talking about Kamala Harris. It hasn't been getting a ton of traction in the media or anything like that, but he is doing stuff. And meanwhile, like, the Republicans are kind of like working things out. Like, so again, because there's going to be a Democrat convention, you tend to get a ratings bump after the convention, right? So it's not the best idea to expend all of your best ammo before the convention. So just watch. After the convention, then the knives will come out. And Kamala has a lot of pretty awful ghosts in her closet. Okay. Just as an example, talking about Kamala Harris's just disastrous record when she was a prosecutor. There was all of this stuff about, like, she was incarcerating people and keeping them incarcerated longer than they needed to be, and a judge basically ordered like 1,000 people to be released, right? And we have quotes, video from the debates of Joe Biden criticizing Kamala Harris on this and basically saying that this is disqualifying for president. Okay, like, when your whole thing is he dropped out and now you're replacing him and everything, that is going to be a devastating, this is going to be an absolutely devastating attack ad when they put that one out. So the other one is that, you know, like, one of the things that I'm seeing is, okay, there's even more Gen Z people coming in that are able to vote. Like, the number of new Gen Z voters that have come in far outweighs the number of, like, boomers that have died. So, like, that is, like, a pretty noticeable shift in the electorate. Yes, if they actually show up. And Kamala Harris basically said that Gen Z is stupid. So, are they actually going to show up for her? I don't know. And the other issue that I see right now is that you're looking at, like, national stuff. Like, there's polls like she's leading Trump 44 to 42%. Well, honestly, in this election, the only thing that really matters is Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Kamala Harris basically has to sweep all three in order to win the presidency. Like the field is actually kind of stacked against Democrats this time around. And I am very, very skeptical that she can win in Pennsylvania in particular. She is just, she has such a radical far left record. The media is trying to cover for her, absolutely. There, you know, there's this whole thing like she's not actually the most left wing thing. I think that is still there. They just kind of moved it. So I think that was misreported, that they kind of rescinded that she was the most leftist senator. She was the most left wing senator. Okay, and it was not just that. Like, she can't help herself but, like, push these most progressive policies. And she would take every opportunity that she possibly could to open her mouth and say things that, you know, are going to be devastating in the general election. You got to keep in mind, most people have no clue what's going on and don't pay attention until after Labor Day, right? Like, if I was seeing what was going on right now this week and it was after Labor Day, then I might be a little bit concerned. Okay. But it's not. It's not going to go that way. Because, you know, Labor Day is going to come and go, and then the political season will start in more earnest, and they're going to start airing ads in Pennsylvania showing Kamala Harris saying that we should completely ban fracking and oil drilling everywhere, that we should ban gasoline cars or consider that, that we should consider banning red meat. And they're going to play that in Pennsylvania. She will not stand a chance, guys. She will not stand a chance. I really have a very, very difficult time seeing how she can win in moderate Pennsylvania, a battleground state, with that radical of a platform. So, I got what you're saying here. So let me go back and make sure I kind of covered all of that. Why doesn't Trump tap Elon's Twitter resources? I don't know if he really needs to or that he could, but I don't think that Elon is as pro-Trump as we're all making him out to be. They're just leaving resources to reach people online in the dustbin. Meanwhile, every other video on the Shorts feed is a Harris ad. Yeah. Well, the thing is that the Democrat Party has a control over social media that you just can't do anything about it, guys. And your Republicans are not going to even understand how to even try to do the same thing, let alone like actually implement it. Because it's basically the way that it works is you have 48% of people that don't like a video and 51% of people that do like the video. And because social media is basically winner takes all majority rules, that 2% advantage that you get in favor of liberals basically takes over and allows them to push all of their content over the top and prevent all of the Republican content from ever reaching your feed. That's basically the way that works. Okay. Yeah, Octavia saying she went to college dorm to brush up on her oral skills. I actually think it's a little bit worse than that. Okay, so like, okay, sure. You don't like Israel, you don't like Benjamin Netanyahu. If she becomes president, do you think that she's going to be able to work with him and get things done with him? Heck no. He's not going to trust her. He's not going to have a strong relationship with her. Really what it comes down to is Kamala Harris is more interested in hanging out with her other radical friends and yapping than she is actually doing real policy and statesmanship and stuff. Right? This is where we come back to this thing that like Kamala Harris wants to appear to be as serious. You know, she was a prosecutor. She's a serious politician. She knows her stuff. But the reality is that she's extremely weak. That all of her aides say that she doesn't do the proper preparation. All of these sorts of things. She is kind of like a vapid airhead. Doesn't actually understand what's involved in being a statesman. There's absolutely no way like you can make that kind of a decision. It's like such a poor strategic decision to do that it is. I would describe it as like a vapid decision. Okay. None of those goals matter if everyone everywhere is just like, nah, it's fine, and there's nothing Trump. Well, dude, don't get too focused on like what's happening right now, because what happens right now doesn't matter that much. Same day voting in no mail-in ballots. Well, okay, so on that front, first thing is, and I'm a little bit fuzzy on the specifics here, but my understanding is that things are not as bad in Pennsylvania in particular as they were last time around. Like last time around, I think that like everybody got ballots. You have to like specifically request a mail-in ballot in particular. I think that there is same day registration, but that's like getting people out to the polls and stuff, right? So the rules are not as bad as they were last time around. And the Republicans are putting together, are taking this much more seriously, the get out the vote, and like, you know, this is really about who can go and get more votes on the election, like, you know, basically harvesting votes. So I think that the Republicans should do better on that front this time around. But I think that you have a much larger issue in that Kamala Harris is just a bad candidate from like every perspective. Like she's not, like when we say she's a bad candidate, like she's not going to appeal to a lot of different voters and the polling shows this and that sort of a thing. Like that's typically what we think of when you hear an analyst say she's not a good candidate. But I'm actually saying, like, look at her strategic decisions. Look at the way that she runs things. Look at the policy that she has. She's a poor candidate. Like, she is just not really very well equipped to be an executive and to run a presidential campaign. And so right now, it seems like they're doing really well because it's like Kamala everything on social media. But like, look, everybody can see it, right? That it was, oh, Joe Biden, he's totally fine. And, the media pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually, he's not fine. But Kamala is the greatest thing in the world. Everybody can see what's going on and are kind of taking everything that they're seeing now on social media a little bit skeptically. Okay. I really don't think that what you're seeing today is going to hold through to election day. Want to know where Illinois hand out all of their paper voting forms and the like? The food card office is what hands them out in stacks, as many as you want, right? Weird, right? But yeah, I really, so like, I'm just looking at like campaign strategy, the way that the seasonality of elections work, all of that sort of a thing. I really think that Kamala Harris is gonna fizzle out early. Like, the top peak Kamala Harris is basically now until the Democrat convention. And then after the Democrat convention, it's probably all downhill from there for the Democrat Party. And then you have to add on top of all of that the whole thing of like switching your nominee halfway through and people not really being able to vote for her. And, all of that plays very, very poorly as well. And on top of that, I think that Americans have kind of warmed up to Trump a little bit, to be honest with you. Like, they've done all of this work to try and make Trump to be out like Mustache Man or something, and I don't think it's holding. Yeah, like the people online, the insane liberals that just parrot everything that the Democrat Party says on Reddit every day, they think that he is. But I think that Americans in general are a lot less concerned about what happens if Donald Trump is president. We saw him as president before. Can't be too bad. I'm personally extremely concerned about where the country would go under a President Harris. Okay, because she has those like far, not only is she like super far left, but she is also like authoritarian. And when I say authoritarian, what I mean is that she advocates in every instance possible abusing her executive power to get what she wants. So I think that she would do many controversial and damaging things in office. I love Joe Biden, especially his Instagram videos. Okay. But that's what we got. Come on, it's only been a week. Anyways. It's only been a week. I'm still kind of the opinion that like, because so here's another thing I would say. You and I, Uzi, in particular, I think. I think that we're a little bit traumatized by like John McCain and Mitt Romney's campaigns, right? Because you saw it with John McCain and then you really saw it with Mitt Romney, where it's like the social media machine rears its ugly head and you just see it everywhere and you know that it's BS, but not everybody knows that it's BS. And enough people fall for it that it changes the outcome of elections. I really feel like that to a large extent that happened with John McCain. Because under normal circumstances, John McCain would probably do pretty well in a general election, But he didn't play very well at all. Now, he was probably always going to lose that election because basically Republicans were in power at the time that the 2008 crisis happened. So, like, you're going to see a change in power anyways. And also because Obama was just, he captured people's imagination, I guess you could say. Right. And it was Obama was the one that created this monster that is the Democrat social media propaganda machine, right? So I think, so when Donald Trump came along in 2016, all of the Republicans were like, I'm so sick of this. I'm going to try and play their same game. And so the Donald Trump supporters, did their thing, was able to break through on social media in a big way. And the people kind of in power kind of lost control of the narrative, and Donald Trump was able to win and slip through, right? And then what happened after that? They basically were like, oh, well, we can't allow this. They like banned all of the Donald Trump spaces on Reddit and did all of this other sort of stuff, to the point where like Joe Biden won the last election. Well, I don't think that Joe Biden won the last election because like Donald Trump supporters were suppressed on social media. I think that Donald Trump lost the last election due to a combination of, one, Trump not being able to let go of wanting to open up the economy and dismiss COVID before the American public was ready to dismiss COVID, and not having a good enough get out the vote effort, where in some Democrat areas they just, like Georgia and Arizona, their ballot harvesting operations were just way better, and Republicans kind of poo-pooed doing any of that sort of stuff, right? So those two things combined, that's why he lost. Okay, so now you come to today, and you think, well, we have to do something. The Democrat propaganda, social media propaganda machine is running hard, right? So we need to do something. We need to fight against it. We need to get our narrative out there. We need to prove where they're lying, right? She was the border czar. All of these other things that the media is trying to lie. She was the most left-wing senator. She was rated the most left-wing senator. And like some people are trying to like bury that. And we need to make sure that gets out and everything. Well, yeah. But I don't think that you have to do anything special. I think that you just do your thing. You do the election the best way that you know how. You don't have to sit there and like grit your teeth and be stressed about it every day. Because the reality is that Kamala Harris is just a really, really bad, awful Democrat candidate that is not doing too well campaigning already, and likely to peak early. That doesn't mean like rest on your laurels or anything. It's just execute the plan. And I'm telling you right now, like if you're not in on the political stuff, part of the plan is wait until after the Democrat convention. Okay. Kamala Harris faces greater security risks because she's a woman and a person of color. Maybe. I mean, I'm sure that there's always crazy people that want to assassinate a president and a presidential candidate, but I don't think that she faces greater risks than Donald Trump does. Probably not. So how do we feel about where the treasuries are at now? The journey up here was a little bit mixed. So I totally could have gone with it. I chose not to. Honestly, I wasn't going to take a trade today before vacation anyways, right? So I'm kind of already on vacation. If I had come in today and I was like, I'm going to take a trade, would I have gone long? I'm not entirely sure. It was kind of mixed. Maybe I could have gone long after it really started coming up there. But that would have probably put me in at like maybe 111 even. And I don't know if I would have liked to have gotten in at 111 even on like a big round number where they're likely to kind of go like this. So maybe there was $10 or $20 in there for me. Oh, actually, the change in yield is not very much. That's interesting. But looking at it now, I'm still seeing the volume very much mixed and the treasuries. The selling in the dollar seems to have petered out a little bit. So I'd actually be concerned, if I were to take a long, I'd be really concerned about its propensity to slip back to 111. So I think I'm just going to watch, kind of keep an eye on that. Does it slip back there or not? Could maybe make 10 bucks on it slipping back. Let me go back. What crappy state is Romney from? Oh boy. Okay, so Mitt Romney is from Massachusetts. Yeah, Uzi, that's what started this whole conversation. Was going into the story that the Obamas endorsed Harris. Wait, did you miss the first part of the conversation? I was like specifically making sure that you were like there and like saying stuff before I started that. Okay, off topic. What CPU, motherboard, GPU are you running? I watched the video titled Trading Computer Hardware. It's 4 years old. Okay, sure. So, when I made that video, I was trying to really more give you an idea of like what specs matter to trading so that it will be useful forever. And it is still useful forever. But in terms of like which specific hardware maybe you should get now or not, we're kind of in an interesting space in the computer hardware world, because basically what has happened is AMD has just moved to a different socket type. So what is a socket type is like you have a CPU, and the CPU has a ton of little, wires coming out of the bottom of it, and then that plops into your motherboard. And the format and shape of that connection, changes over time. It's called the socket type. Okay. And so if you buy a motherboard and then they change the socket type, then when the next CPU comes out, you can't just go and buy that new CPU. You're going to have to replace the motherboard as well because the socket type has changed. Okay. So I forget what it's called. It's like an AM4 motherboard. Let's see here. Even though I know that Newegg is unpopular and like people got mad at them, I still go there. I still go there because I don't have anything anywhere better. So like core components, motherboards, AMD motherboards. Yeah, I think it is AM4 and AM5. Yep, you're right. Okay. So the old socket type is AM4 and the new socket type is AM5. Okay. When the AM5 motherboards first came out, they were all very expensive. Like you were not going to get an AM5 motherboard for less than like $300. Okay, so coming over here and looking now, you do have some like $200, $150 to $200 ones. So it's a little bit better in that respect. Then on top of that, in order to go to an AM5 motherboard, you're also going to have to get the new type of DDR RAM. So essentially, at the moment, to get the newest generation of hardware, it is very expensive. Okay, like you're probably gonna spend $1,500, which for computer hardware is relatively expensive. Okay, but if you do the old generation of hardware, let me come back over here and say I only want to look at AM4 motherboards. Okay, look, there's a motherboard for $84. Okay. Let's come back. Components, CPU, desktop CPU, Ryzen. We want like a 7 series. Sorry, we want like a 5 series. No, not a 7600. $200 for a Ryzen 5 7600 is not bad. That's way better than when I got it. Okay, here like a 5600, okay? 135 bucks. So you can basically get the CPU and the motherboard for $200. That's really good. That's really good. And then that RAM is just kind of okay. So like that's kind of the decision that you have in front of you is, do I want a computer that, you know, is just kind of okay performance wise right now, but is really, really good value? Or do I really want the new and bestest of everything? And I think that the truth is that unless you are a computer nerd, and honestly, if you're asking me this question, you're probably not like that guy, that there's a really good case for you to go for the older generation of hardware, which basically means an AM4 motherboard and a Ryzen 5000 series. So the way that it works is there's like AMD Ryzen 5 or AMD Ryzen 7 or AMD Ryzen 9. And that has more to do with like the number of cores on the CPU. But then the number after that, 5600, is the one that you're looking for. And the way that it goes is there's like the major series. So the last series, major series, was 5000. And the new series is 7000. And then the second number tells you if it's, you know, a mainstream or a performance CPU. So like the 600 tends to be like the middle of the line best bang for your buck one. 700 is kind of like, you know, a little bit of a step above that, and like 8 and 9 are like the enthusiast CPUs. Okay. So like I would get a 5600 and an AM4 motherboard, and then a ton of RAM. Like 32 gigs, 64 gigs of RAM. Look at that, sell it. Oh wow, yeah. That's reloading.
Block by.
Oh boy. That is some puking there. Except for an iceberg at 05. Well, let's see how much oomph they got. It looks like, is it right here? The dollar's still kind of under pressure, so. Now the other side of this, another thing in computer hardware right now that you kind of got to deal with, is that video cards are super expensive still. So let's see here. If I come to components, video cards. Yeah. So like the top of the line video cards are $1,000 all by themselves. It used to be that like $400 for a video card was crazy. Man, it's changed so much. Okay, 4070 for 500 is not too bad. Then you get a, nah, I don't want the Radeon cards. Where's the? Only show me NVIDIA's. All right, so like a 4070 for $600. That's kind of like your mid-range performance CPU sort of a thing. I mean, that's going to be pretty expensive. $300 for a 4060. That's not bad. But honestly, you don't, for trading, you don't really need that. I mean, if you're going to play games, then great, but I'm not sure you really need that for trading. So you might want to go for like a 16 series instead. Let's see what those are at right now. Okay, so like a 1650, that would be about like the lowest you could go. So like the cheapest that I would recommend, $160. Yeah, you could get away with it. I would probably rather have a 1660 though. Here's a 60. Oh man, some of the 1660s are still expensive. Okay, there's a 1660. That's okay. 189. That's not bad. That's not bad. So that's kind of like the one thing you kind of gotta. Now, if you want to do like a back testing and Bitcoin mining and all that, then you would want a nice CPU. But otherwise, like for discretionary day trading, having a super nice video card is not super important. Just make sure that it has some, you know, when you come in and you look at them, and you can look at the back and just make sure that the ports on the back match what you want to have. You know, like, so if I want to have 3 monitors, but all 3 of my monitors are DisplayPort, then this video card right here isn't going to work, is it? No, that one's not going to work. What about this 1660? Here's the back. Okay, it has a DisplayPort, a HDMI, and a DVI. No, not what we really want. Not what we really want. You can't come in here and say it has to at least support 3. And probably they all will. Yeah, I mean, like with this one, if I don't have a monitor that supports VVID, then I'm going to have to do funky stuff, right? And these cheaper ones are you're going to have a harder time with as well. So let's go back here a little bit. So like if we get to like a 40, where's the 4060? This 4060 right here. This one will probably have what we want. Come on. Oh, well, I'm a little bit suspicious about this card because, oh, there it is. There we go. Ah, okay. So this one gives me 3 display ports and an HDMI, right? That's probably going to match what kind of monitors people have now. Cool. Fun stuff. I haven't looked at computer hardware much this year because I bought something around Christmas. Well, I tell you what, I was concerned from 03 half that they would come back to 111, but they didn't. They continued up, and I'm seeing pretty steady pressure here. I do think that it is the currencies pushing them more than like outright volume coming into the treasury now, though, because like the change in cumulative delta and the trend in cumulative delta isn't very good, which has honestly kind of been the theme for the last month, hasn't it? Kind of been the theme lately. Oh man. So I'm just seeing here on Reddit now, the Obamas endorse Harris. This is going to be historic, is the way that they're trying to present it. What do you think about Bookmap? It's a decent platform. I don't think that its DOM is as good as Jigsaw, and that's what I care about the most, so that's why I use Jigsaw. And I haven't really used Bookmap very extensively, so I wouldn't say that I have super great experience with it. But everything that I've seen and heard from many of my viewers that do use Bookmap, it's a completely reasonable platform. And if you really like it, you might as you can do it. If you're interested primarily in the watching the DOM, though, I don't think it's as good as the Jigsaw DOM. I've been seeing a lot more stuff about order flow out there on the internet lately. I kind of feel like that the order flow that most people run into is technical analysis applied to order flow data, but hey, it's better than nothing. Bookmap and the MBO data is really cool. Yeah, if you're willing to spend the extra $200 a month or whatever to get it, right? Because you have to pay extra to get the MBO data, and then you have to pay extra to Bookmap to get the indicator that allows you to like see the stops and do stuff with it. I'm a little bit skeptical that if you're like a retail trader and you're trading one contract or something, that MBO data is going to give you it enough of an advantage to make up that $200 a month. But what do I know? I want to see what MBO on a DOM looks like. Well, on a DOM, I don't know if it really looks like anything. I don't know. You know, I have not really seen a whole lot of very good I think that the MBO stuff is still really early and clunky. I haven't seen an interface that really looks slick. Like the way that I would do it, here's, you know what I would do? Is, you know, like here on my DOM, I kind of have like a little histogram behind the numbers, right? So I can very easily see visually that there's 6,417 is the largest on the bid right now. Right, way back at 111 even. There's next step up here that's kind of at a quarter. 111.08. What if that histogram kind of like showed me the orders? You know what I mean? Like, where's my pen? Where's my pen? Oh, it's over here. So like you have the number 6,000, and then underneath of it there's the histogram, and then the histogram would show you like there's one order that's really big like this, and then there's lots of little orders, you know, so that I could kind of see where those big orders were. And maybe if I have a position, it shows me a little marker that shows that I'm like right here, so that I can see that like, oh, like there's a really big order in front of me, and if that big order cancels, then I'll be right at the front of the line. Right? Like you could do that with MBO. I haven't seen that. But I haven't seen that. Yeah, so Octavius, he has it. It wasn't yours kind of a little bit like custom, like using Sierra charts, but like a configuration. Oh my gosh, like I find these so difficult to read, right? Well, so here's your DOM. This must be, you know, orders. What's the middle one then? Is the middle one the LTQ or whatever? Red 500. There's like your profile. It says yes, so I think that was yes to the LTQ thing. I think that you're talking that it's this thing over here is the MBOs, right? Or no, it's red 500. Okay, it's this thing. Basically, it says there is a large single order over here. I gotcha. The 800. Yellow and blue. I see. Yeah. See, I don't know. Like, do those matter? I don't know. Because, like, when you look at those ones, like, they're almost always going to match up with spots where there's a lot of liquidity overall on the DOM, right? But that's where I think you got to get into, like, why does MBO exist? The reason MBO exists is because if you go and you put an order in, your software knows that there is 5,000 people ahead of you in line. And then if some of those orders cancel, you're going to move up the line. But like, as more of those orders cancel, how many of those orders that canceled were in front of you versus behind you? And you can kind of estimate it. There's kind of models that you can use to kind of estimate, based on where I am in the queue, here's the chances that, you know, 1/3 of it was in front of me and 2/3 of it was behind me, or something like that, right? And you get an okay estimate, but it's going to be off by quite a bit. And if you are a market-making algorithm that is constantly putting orders out there to save a spot in line to try and get at the front of the queue so that you can essentially arbitrage that difference between where you really are in the queue and where an estimate would say that you are in a queue, matters. And so they created MBO, so that those algorithms can know exactly where they are in line and make better decisions about whether they want to take the fill or cancel. That is the real motivation behind MBO data, okay? The same with like cumulative delta. There is some error in cumulative delta. If I see an order go off over here, you know, like especially when it's like prices flipping back and forth a lot, like which of those orders were actually market buys and which were market sells? And depending on the situation in the data, that there can be as much as a 10% difference to like what the cumulative delta is. That's not going to change like the longer term trend. Like if there's a persistent imbalance, you're still going to see that sort of a thing. So like for us and retail traders, it doesn't really matter too much. But it can be as much as 10% different.
Block buy.
Well, it looks like the aggressive buyers are still kind of willing to take some stuff. There is a little bit of an imbalance to the you know, in favor of the longs as well. So it's not unreasonable that we will continue to move up here and maybe target that 08. Well, that was a pretty good step up. Let's recenter so we can see if how they bust 06.5. If it continues to be kind of like dramatic and like big trades up there, or if they kind of get nonchalant. I'd say that it's moving around quite a bit, and I kind of see that kind of anticipation sort of a feel in the way that it's moving around here. That bid did not hold. Now, the thing about MBO data that I'm interested in is that supposedly, because it shows you updates on an order-by-order basis, if you have a stop, when that stop gets converted from a stop order into a market order, it shows up as an update. And so when you see market volume that is from an update, then you know that it's a stop. That's my understanding of it. I haven't like programmed it, but that's my understanding of how the data works. So that seems like something worth doing some investigation on. I haven't seen anybody really do a good study on it. Just to say, are there certain situations where you're more likely to see stop volume and that sort of thing? Okay, that was a good take at 06.5 and now hitting into 07. 1256 in there, so that might have been a stop order. the 6J is kind of evened out. The dollar is still going a little bit sideways, so they're not getting as much support from the currencies. They aren't getting as much support from the currencies as they originally were. So this may be like stop runs now. Just skibidi across 3 prices. Oh, I didn't quite catch that. I just caught that they were bid at 06.5 again. Where did you hear that? Supposedly the preferred market makers are now going to be allowed to jump the queue. That wouldn't be very fair. Why would they do that? I mean, that's the way that they kind of allow the 2-year, or have at times allowed the 2-year to work, but changing the 10-year treasury from first in, first out to something else, I think would be controversial. I don't think that they would just change that and everybody be like, okay, no problem, whatever. If you're gonna let people, if somebody jump the queue, let the retail traders do it, man. Come on. CME, listen, you want more liquidity? You want more liquidity and more fees and all of that sort of stuff so you can make money? Give the retail traders a little bit of a bump. Let them, you know, like maybe if you scratch it, you get a rebate on your commissions. Or, you know, if you're transacting under a certain amount per year, then you get to be categorized as a beginning trader and you get to jump to the front of the line. And that way, people that are just starting out, you know, kind of get a little bit of a handicap to get them started. And then you would have more people independently pursuing this as trying to provide liquidity instead of just all being the algorithms. Market orders and algorithms after stops moves the market, so stops not too much important. Stop orders are just convert to market orders and have the same impact as any other kind of order, probably. But that's not the question. The question is, can we predict stop orders, essentially? Can we predict stop orders? So if there are areas where we can explicitly predict stop orders, then that would give us better entry locations, essentially. Or we can say, so when we trade a new high, there's a higher chance of there being stop orders, for instance, right? Then I can say, we've come up and we're at a new high. It totally makes sense for me to buy it there because I know that there will be stop orders when it touches 08, for instance. It's kind of funny that they haven't tagged 08 yet. I think they're gonna. That's not bad. Where were we at when I was kind of like yapping about it? That's 10. Could have made some money today because this is turning into a good trend. This is so sad. Should I be sad about it? What do you think? Because this was where I came in here, like right here. I was like, okay, well, the opportunity is probably lost anyways, and I'm probably not going to trade anyways, but it looks like that this was a good trade, right? Well, this was a good trade. That was a great trade. Oh, it's only 10 bucks, 10, 15 bucks, but still, like that's the kind of move that I'm looking for. That's the kind of move that I'm looking for. When it was just here, when it was just this, it was kind of like, not sure it's there. But after that, now you can clearly see, yes, that is a trade that we would want to be in. That is that large imbalance in favor of longs that we're looking for. Okay. They did tag 08. maybe, but stop. No, but that's not what I'm saying at all. The objective is predict orders. So if I know certain situations and locations that are likely to have stop orders on them, that's allowing me to predict future orders, and I can use that to make money. Why did what the heck? I don't know what I just did there, but I pushed a button and it changed scenes and I was sideways. Like I don't have a scene that has me sideways. Oh, it must have been this one, the vert one. Yeah, it is the vert one. Hey. Okay, but the problem is that now that it's at 08, I'm definitely like, I don't know if we can go much further. Wait, so let's pull up a volume profile and just kind of double check here. Ah, interesting. Okay, so we'll give it one more tick, but that is basically a weekly high. And then you get into this range in the 111s to like the next 111 to 111.16. So this is a potential longer term daily resistance area. Going to a daily chart doesn't look as significant. I suppose if you look at it from a daily chart, it kind of supports the idea that we're still in an uptrend, doesn't it? And that you might have good trades with momentum long. And some big orders at 08 as well. Oh my gosh, I just saw something that reminded me. So, there was a video out, I think yesterday, that was basically from a former employee. That's what I'm looking for. Former employee of Mr. Beast's. Former employee of Mr. Beast's. Basically calling Mr. Beast a fraud. He's like, actually, like, all of the videos are faked, and here's all of the kind of the fake things and stuff that really kind of should be illegal that he's doing to you guys. I'm so there for that, man. Like, seeing that and like, yes, the whole thing, like, he's became famous doing dubious BS that is not, I don't really feel like he has integrity, I guess, is how I would put it. And I loved it. And, I'm seeing more videos and more stuff. So, like, now all of the sudden, it's like the knives are out for Mr. Beast. Not that I have anything personal against him. I hate what YouTube has become after he became popular. Now they're telling me that the video is actually shadow banned. Oh my gosh. 343,000 views though. It's definitely getting traction on like Reddit. Well, what time is it, by the way? 7:47. Did I just hear children? No, it's dogs. Hold on a second. Well, they did it a lot earlier today to me than they did the other days, didn't they? Tick down. Slim's a little bit more significant in the 30-year, so there might be a pivot here. Oh, you know what? I'm just realizing is like how many of the days have we had where like there seemed like there were strong trends and it completely reversed? So is there a chance that it comes all the way back to the 111? Well, I'm not going to make a bet on that. I mean, I don't want to trade against a trend like that. But I do think it is a real possibility, isn't it? So this could stay interesting, couldn't it? Well, let's come over here. All I want to see, was there stuff in that news that was a little bit more important than I realized? Prosecutors charge short seller Andrew Left of Citron Research with fraud for misleading statements. The Los Angeles grand jury indictment alleges Left used his reputation to manipulate stock prices, closing positions quickly after his public statements caused desired price movements. Okay, well, here's the news on the PCE. The broadly weak trend of U.S. macro data was jolted yesterday by a hotter than expected GDP print, which prompted a hawkish shift in rate cut expectations. This morning, the Doves get another chance for some, quote, bad news to support their we must cut narrative. The Fed's favorite inflation indicator, core PCE, instead came in slightly hotter than expected, rising 2.6% year over year. The headline PCE dipped to plus 2.5%. Under the hood, durable goods inflation continues to drag core PCE lower while services costs continued to rise. Even more notably, the so-called super core PCE rose spot 2% month over month, which saw a year-over-year rise to 3.43%, which is awkwardly stagnant at elevated levels. That is the fifth straight monthly rise in supercore prices, with healthcare costs soaring on a month-over-month basis. Income growth was weaker than expected, while spending was spot 3 as expected. This also dragged the savings rate lower, all of which takes place against a background of a 7th straight month of rising government handouts. Well, it is an election year after all, which means the savings rate would have puked even more without it. Not enough there for the Doves, says Zero Hedge, and yet we moved up. So like PCE higher than expected, core PCE slightly higher than expected, month over month only barely higher than expected, spending in line, personal income lower than expected. So like the only bit of that news that was like that was like explicitly dovish was that personal income did not rise as much. Are you telling me that that whole trend was from that? I don't know. I'm not sure if the move makes sense. Now, we do have University of Michigan and expectations. So we're in a pretty interesting spot to have that news, right? So let's just kind of relax and see how it goes. Oh, do the Olympics begin this week? I'm not even paying attention, to be honest. Okay, here we go. 10 seconds. Okay, well, the liquidity really pulled. And here's the numbers. I'm not seeing a whole lot of volume trading off of that. The 1 year and, well, okay, 5-year inflation, we got 3% versus an expected 2.9. And 1 year, we got 2.9 versus expected 2.9. Sentiment is 66.4 versus 65. So that looks slightly hawkish to me, but like probably not enough to matter. It doesn't really look like the market's doing anything. Okay, well, after the event, a little bit of downside in the treasuries, but I don't know, it looks like the S&P 500 is kind of liking that news to some extent. A little fuzzy on if this should really be driving a lot of orders. I'm not really seeing anything. I should also note that the flows in the 10-year over the last 30 minutes or so have been to the sell side. So it really looks to me like whatever meta order was kind of pushing us up here is gone now. And, you know, I'm not really sure what was driving it. So I'm really skeptical about that there would be some follow through or like, you know, second and third legs. We may just be seeing a little bit of like, you know, closing positions out and resettling, and maybe we'll see it settle somewhere in here. You think that it's kind of funny that there's so much traded in like between 111 and 04, and then a lot between 05 and 08, but like only 2,000 contracts traded at 04 half. So that's going to be an interesting spot to see they test, and then maybe they'll fall back down, and we'll see if they decide to build their kind of rest in this range or in this range. At the moment, though, I'm kind of thinking that it's going to be 07 because I'm just not seeing really strong flows either way, and it might take a little bit to push them back down into this area. The fiber guys didn't have to dig in. Oh, so you did get fiber after all? Like I convinced you to get fiber and you asked them and they said, "Oh yeah, no, we don't have to dig anything in your yard." I know, even if they do have to. No, they're installing the utility lines. Oh, I got you. Well, they didn't have to dig at all then, huh? One of the things on my mission was there was this family that we spent a lot of time with, and they were essentially a subcontractor for burying cable lines. So we often found ourselves, I remember there was this one day where they had to run a line underneath of like a really small parking lot sort of a thing, or like a driveway. I forget what it was, but it was under something essentially. And like they couldn't find the bit. Like the way that it works is you have this machine digs a little bit down, and then, you know, it just pushes a drill through, and then you gotta go and find it on the other side. And they couldn't find it on the other side, and they had kind of like limited room to dig. So they had me come over because I could fit in there and fish it out. So I know more about burying cable lines than I would like. I guess you could say. They made good money doing it though. Unfortunately, you know, I haven't been able to put that too much to work here in Utah, because, you know, a lot of what they did was like, oh, you need to take the line here, and they would just have a shovel that was a foot deep and wide and flat, you know, and just, you know, create a fissure, open the fissure up, stuff the line in there, and close it back up just by stepping on it, right? You try and do that in Utah, you're going to run into a rock. You just are. So you have to build the trench. It sucks. And you got to be careful because if you use a ditch witch, you'll pull up huge rocks and it'll just destroy things. Our local ones drilled through our main water line twice? What? What do you think about Costco stock? I think that I wish that I owned it and that I missed the boat on it. This is what I think about Costco. There has been a little bit of what would we say, like downside recently, and maybe some like, okay, can they really just continue to keep going up? Man, I didn't know that it was $800. It's expensive-ish. Yeah. It really irks me, these should I say that it irks me? I don't know. It's just like, I don't get why you have these companies that want to have these hugely expensive stocks. Like, it was really funny when, some of these guys like Google, I think in particular, and Tesla to some extent, like they did their stock splits and like it drove like way more volume and positive price action into the stock, and it's kind of like, well, why were you keeping it like at thousands of dollars for such a long time? That was dumb. But whatever. Costco just looks so amazing though. Like, look at how well it's I guess it doubled over the last 2 years, is just relative to the rest of the stock market is just kind of okay, but it's still a really good stock. I think that like to get that kind of performance out of that sector is really amazing. So I wish that I had it. I do. I wish I had it. I think should spend more time analyzing stocks, I do kind of feel that as things move along that we should work to expand the reach of our little YouTube channel here beyond just futures. So want to make a video about index funds and videos about things that are going on in the finance and investing industry in general. So that's the first kind of thing. And then talking about stocks is a little bit too. I don't think that you're ever going to see me do like okay, here's a specific stock, here's everything to know about that stock sort of video, or even like, here's an industry, here are the best stocks in that industry. But well, I don't know. So if I don't do those two things, what am I going to do with stocks? But I do think that we could make some videos about things like valuing them and, understanding the market in general. Because like there's like these two sides to this, right? One is like we do futures and we're trying to, make money trading treasuries, and that's what we do here every day. And so like really the treasury trading and order flow is like really the primary focus of the channel in reality. But when we get to like, what are the things that I really want the world to know and the messages that we really want to get out, and building an understanding of how markets really function and everything, that's a much more general thing. And so to help get that message out, we are going to need to make more general content, and stocks could be a really fertile ground for that, Kind of brings me back to this, to the whole index fund thing, is like, okay, diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. Like, where is that coming from? It's primarily coming from these guys that created these funds, like BlackRock and not Fidelity, but what's the other big one? Anyways, they're all kind of into it. And I think everybody kind of has this idea that like This is like this left-wing crazy idea, and
Block
they
cell.
just happen to be left-wing people, and so that's why they're pushing it into their companies and stuff like that. I actually think that what's going on here is a lot more involved than that. Which is to say, they are coming to that conclusion because of what they do. There are things that they know about the market that leads them to that conclusion, right? Once you realize that like the markets aren't efficient, and that, you know, what gets allocated the most capital, it really just has to do with what people decide to buy into and not necessarily what's actually the best thing, then the only logical conclusion there is that in order for us to improve the world, we have to make better decisions, essentially, right? And so they come to the conclusion that, well, the things that we think that are good and that are missing in our society are this like diversity, that like certain disadvantaged groups continue to have problems. And so we need to tip the scales in their favor. And so we need to do that using the tools that we kind of have through the way that we invest and so forth. That's why they come to that conclusion, right? And the problem is that because nobody else really understands this, you're not really having anybody putting forth a reasonable counter vision to that. Because I think that, yes, it is true the markets are not efficient, and that we have to make better investing decisions. But I don't think that pushing, you know, hiring or giving things to one group over the other because they're historically disadvantaged is going to be a positive thing that is going to help you in that way. In many respects, when you give people handouts like that, it hurts them. And so really what we need to do is we need to give people real equity. And when I say real equity, I mean people actually have something at stake, that you've invested something into that, and that you have you are invested in the outcome for that company, right? I want more people to be invested in that form. And what we're doing with index funds and everything is actually making that less. So how can we deal with that? Do we need to give certain incentives, like we will allow you to invest in companies tax-free up to a certain amount if you directly own the companies, for instance? Like those are the sorts of things that I think we should do to bring like more equity in and actually, right? So it's basically because the market is inefficient, and you know there's the whole square root law and all of this sort of stuff. Okay, that is true, and I think that it has pretty profound impacts and consequences for the society. But basically, what has happened is we've only gotten one vision off of that information, and I don't agree with those people. I want more people to know, so we can all offer an alternative vision that's still based on that knowledge, you know? You don't teach subjects you've taught before while also including more new channel path with it? Well, I don't know. I do think that at some point I will probably go back and make certain videos that were kind of like the earlier ones that I think I can kind of do a little bit of a better approach on them. And videos that like will attract an audience. For instance, I think that we should make a video that's like, how much money do you really need to practically start day trading, right? I think that I'm not exactly sure how I would approach this video, but I do think that I want to have a video about funded trader programs. It's a popular subject. There's more people doing that than ever. I think that as far as I've seen, there are more people doing prop firm accounts than are trading their own accounts. So, discussing like the pros and cons and everything related to that about it, I think would be a beneficial video and would bring people to the channel. And the content that I had about that is like so old now and kind of like in a different place that I don't really feel like that it gets the views and, gets that message out that, hey, yeah, can you do Combine? It's not like it's like an evil thing to do or like it's gambling to do it or anything. It's just like we should understand what the service that you're actually getting. And like, is it worth it for you versus starting your own account? Funny, I got all in on that subject, but sometimes I've thought, so here's something that comes into my mind all the frickin' time, and I keep dismissing it, but maybe I'm dismissing it unfairly. Is like I'll be on YouTube I'll be on TikTok. And TikTok will like do this thing where it's like, okay, now we're going to show you about this subject, right? It will have like 2 or 3 subjects and it will kind of switch between them. And then when you get bored of one of those subjects, it will switch it out and get you on another TikTok, right? And so one of the ones that it will flip me over to all the time is ADHD TikTok, right? And I honestly don't like ADHD TikTok. I feel that a lot of the content that I'm getting isn't very good content. Sometimes it's just that, I think that they have like a surface understanding of what they're talking about, and is just kind of like, okay, you were ADHD, you got diagnosed late as an adult, and here's everything that you learned, and so now you want to go out and make a YouTube channel about it. And I understand that, because like everybody does that. Well, not everybody, but lots of people do those sorts of things. That's kind of in a way how this channel started, because it was really just a trading journal is how this started, right? And then me sharing the information I get. And when you share, like teach other people the information that you get, your understanding of it increases, right? But I don't feel like I'm getting that with the ADHD people. I'm like, I think I understand this on a better level than you, and that I could give people better content. And I think that I perform at a higher level than these other people that I'm seeing. So like, I'm frequently like, I should make ADHD content. But it's kind of like, because I think that the advantage that I have with the ADHD thing is that I was diagnosed young and, have been through like the optimal path for a person. So a lot of people that were diagnosed late in life, that's kind of like a difficult thing to deal with, because they're very resentful that it wasn't found earlier. How different could their life have been if they had known all of this stuff when they were younger, like I did? Well, then they would be me, and then they get to see me, and it's really sad, because I've done pretty good. They would like to do that good as well, but it also provides me certain advantages. I have more experience, better understanding of these, and how to become hyper productive as a person with ADHD. So I kind of feel like probably could make good content related to it, and it does seem to be a niche that does well, and that people have made good channels with. So maybe I should just go for it. Maybe I should, like, I'm not making a ton of content for this channel right now, because I feel like I got to make a really good video. I got to write out a script, and that's a lot of work. And sometimes, I just don't have all the time to do it. Whereas I could probably do some of these other channel ideas in my spare time. So I'm like, maybe I should just change my focus for a little bit. But then I'm like, no, I want to trade. I want to trade. I want to start a hedge fund. So something have you seen this? If you got off the social media for a week and do the dopamine detox, it's the best thing I've done this year. Well, yeah, I don't anticipate spending too much time on social media. I don't know. So like, basically what we're doing is we're going to my in-laws' house, and they have a house out in the country, and the kids just play around for a week. So my week will basically be either watching children or, doing whatever I want on my computer. So this will be, in the past vacations, actually the last 2 years of vacations, that was when I did some of my strongest study for like the Series 65 and Series 3 tests. But I don't have that this time. I still wake up at the same time and have like time early in the morning. So I'm gonna read that. I'm gonna make scripts during that time. But it does give me a lot of time to sit and browse the phone. But I don't actually see myself doing too much of that this time. I'm honestly, okay, like more broadly, I am not a strong believer in the dopamine detox thing. Which is to say, I don't think that, like completely detoxing yourself of the dopamine, the big dopamine drivers for like a week or a month really does a whole lot for you. That it's really about managing it every day and throughout your day. Like one of the things is it's really bad for you to like first thing you do is sit in your bed and watch TikTok for an hour before you get up. I mean, I'll do it sometimes, but especially if you're doing that every day, because now you've got the dopamine like really high from the very get-go, and that has very negative effects for you. Just for instance, doing the exercise, that can kind of help with those sorts of things. Doing meditation, that can kind of help with those sorts of things. I've not seen evidence, certainly not any kind of like empirical evidence to suggest that like the whole detox thing is actually like really actually has real benefits. So I do feel, so for some reason this week, TikTok and stuff has been kind of sending me into certain drama rabbit holes. So I share one with you here. There is a podcast you've maybe heard of before called the All In Podcast, which is basically like 3 or 4 venture capitalist billionaires that loved talking to each other and decided that they would turn it into a podcast. And there's a lot of politics with it. And there's one guy on the podcast in particular that has kind of been like a left or a right-wing libertarian type. I think it's Sachs. And, like if you go to the subreddit, the All In Podcast subreddit, it's like most of the subreddit is them complaining about the podcast, and the people on the podcast is actually like they're not really fans. So it's just kind of funny. But you know, and these guys have kind of been there with this whole Silicon Valley all of the sudden embraces Donald Trump shtick. And so they've been at the forefront of that. And because of that, the knives have come out. I'm telling you, we're talking about knives all day, man. Knives have come out for him. And so now all of the sudden, it's all of these people that were like were founders of companies that got funded by him and so forth, that like had bad experiences with him, essentially. Like all over the place. And it's like some crazy drama. Basically, it all started when Vance became vice president. Trump's vice president pick. So Vance as the vice president pick was a kind of an extreme pick. Like if you're trying to come off as a moderate and everything, you probably would have picked someone else. But super disturbing to me, the things that you're seeing on social media, like the number of people coming out and saying like, oh, you know, you don't want to be funded by this guy, he's a real a-hole, etc., etc., etc. Nobody said anything before now. I'm not saying that like, oh, because they never said anything before now that they're lying, or that they're only doing it because they have a political incentive, although I do think that they're only doing it because they have a political incentive. But I think that what they're saying is true. And it's super disturbing to me that people choose not to share this information that would be beneficial to other people until it has some sort of a political benefit and they can see some sort of like tide turning. Isn't that interesting how people work? Super disturbing to me. This is like a side of people in society that I do not like. Because to me, it's like, I have a bad experience. I'm going to say something. I don't want it to happen to other people, you know? But most people keep their mouths shut. And that's how people get away with all sorts of bullcrap. Just like Mr. Beast. Basically, the whole time, lying to his viewers, like running contests and not actually giving people to try and drive sales, and then not actually giving people the prizes, faking videos, you know, when his whole brand is basically, oh, but we're actually really doing it, but then you're not. And he becomes the top dog on YouTube through essentially fraud, in my opinion. And everybody that worked for him knows what's going on. Never said anything. By the way, apparently everybody that worked for Mr. Beast kind of knew about the thing that his transgender friend was a possible minors attracted person. Nobody said anything. Although that one is maybe kind of like, well, even if you say something, what are you going to do? Right? Because you don't have any proof of anything. So this thing that just keeps going on in society, it super bothers me. Then the other piece of drama that I read yesterday, this one is way off on left field, but hey, we got 30 minutes left. Why not? There was an article, was it the New Yorker or the I can't remember who it was from. Okay, but basically this magazine did a profile of the number one trad wife influencer. His name is Ballerina Farm. I had never heard of them before this, but apparently they live in Utah, outside of Oakley, out in the middle of nowhere. And they did this profile of them, and basically what happened is, you know, they just wanted to see, oh, this is the top trad wife influencer, but they sent like this kind of radical feminist, well, maybe not radical feminist, but, you know, like a reporter, you're gonna be left wing, right? And you know, they're like, oh, this is what we do. We're so happy. This is a cool thing that we do and all of that. And but the journalist was kind of like, nah, I don't actually think you're happy doing this. and the article basically ended up being a hit piece to some extent, I feel. It was kind of an interesting thing because one of the things that happens is like, look, taking care of kids is rough. It takes a real toll on you. That doesn't mean that you don't enjoy it and that it's not rewarding, and that it's, you know, because I feel that it's more rewarding than anything else that you can do. But it's still a lot for me to, you know, I have an autistic child, right? That is a huge burden. Okay, mom needs breaks. If I can give her an opportunity to watch them and she goes and runs an errand for like 3 hours or something, that needs to happen from time to time for her mental health cases, right? Well, one of the things that they said in the article was that the husband said that, you know, it's exhausting and like, you know, there have been times where she's just been so tired that she's been in bed all week. That was immediately like sirens going on in my head. Because like that doesn't necessarily mean that like she's that she regrets her life choices or that there's something wrong with their lifestyle or anything like that. But that's depression. That's depression. You probably got postpartum depression or something. You should be getting help for that. You should be getting help for that. But the internet has taken this like in this crazy, crazy direction. Because she wanted to be a ballerina and she didn't, basically. She became a wife and a mother instead. And so now everybody's talking about how awful it is that this guy went and took, you know, like they could have gone and taken any country girl that, you know, didn't want to do anything and would love to live that life with him. But he went and took somebody that was going to Juilliard for ballet instead. And it's so sad that she'll never see her dream or anything, which I think kind of silly. I don't think that Ballerina Farm would agree with it. Some people are saying like, oh, this is an abusive relationship. Well, it could be. We don't have enough information to say that sort of thing. You're probably just hallucinating, right? So lots of drama around that, man. Holy crap. The drama that I found on it and the people arguing about it was insane. Totally insane. But I don't know. They seem a little crazy to me. They're more conservative than I am. Let's put it that way. Well, the treasuries are still kind of like what, 30, 40 minutes later, still at 07. So I think that kind of answers the last big question that I had put out here on the markets about like, will they push back below the 04 and build it in that range, or will they stay above that? And they like didn't even attempt it. So who knows what happens later in the session, but by this point on a Friday, they've probably, you know, pretty much built their, you know. So probably not too much opportunity from here in the treasuries. Market overall, treasuries seem to move more than the Japanese yen today. So I'm continuing to kind of see some divergences there that are curious. Well, the spread did steepen a little bit, but like it steepened off of that 630 news. But that was a retracement of some of the downside they saw overnight. So I don't know if I can read too much into that. Let me come back over to my volume profile chart. So you can kind of see like 2 days ago, there was that really, really huge steepening event. But since then, yeah, it's just within that range. So probably can't make too much from that. No, what's this video that Magical Hot Dogs got here? Was that from Tradello? Is they actually making like real videos now? They are. I'll watch that later. really interesting to me that the Treasury's kind of read this as like an exclusively, yeah, we're gonna lower rates today, but the S&P 500 has been all over the place. So that's kind of curious. Trump planning fundraising trip to Utah in August. Cool. Oh, what's this? Trump confirms it is retreating from Harris debate for now. No, that is not what happened. They only said that since we don't know who the nominee is for sure, that we're not committing to the debate yet. This is all they said. It's the Daily Beast, so I can't even read it. I think that they will have a debate, but they're going to have to change the rules. I don't think that they will have the same rules as they were before, or nor do I think it will be on ABC, but I could be wrong about that. I'm interested in this story about Andrew Left being sued by the SEC for his research as Citron, because I think you need to have analysts like that, but if you just put the thing out and then immediately sell after you put your research out, that is manipulation. But I also kind of wonder, because remember there was that case in Texas and they basically said, oh, actually this isn't stock fraud, right? Well, it's going to be overturned. It's almost certainly going to be overturned, but there's some interesting stuff happening on that front. Crypto industry will show no mercy in November, says Winklevoss after Harris snubs Bitcoin event. Man, I can't even. I suppose the one good thing that could maybe come from a Harris presidency is that I don't think she would be very favorable towards Bitcoin. But no, what's this? Ninja never wants to be alone with another woman. Oh, okay. Is that controversial? Yellen saying inflation will be transitory over and over was manipulation as well? You know, that whole thing is kind of curious. You know what? At the time, I think that they had a very good reason to say, like, the inflation will be transitory. Like, in a way, the one of the problems is that transitory is a little bit of a vague word, you know? Like, in the end, the inflation was transitory. I mean, it's over now, right? So doesn't that mean that it was transitory? It was just that there was a lot more of it than they thought there was going to be, right? I think that some people, economists and people at the Fed, had good reason to be saying what they were saying. I think that other people were just pushing the administration's line. And I do kind of feel like that Yellen in particular was just pushing the administration's line. Is that manipulation? Well, only if you can prove that she didn't believe it. Right? If you can prove that she didn't believe it, then that in my opinion is stock fraud. But again, apparently there's some legal fuzziness around this. There's like a court case where they said actually it's not stock fraud. If you go and you pump a stock up, basically there was this court case that basically said that pump and dump schemes are legal. It's not going to hold up when it gets to the circuit court. It's going to get overturned, but some judge in Texas did do that. So you might see some legal doctrine get refined in a little bit and stuff. Oh, there you go. See, okay. I saw it on Reddit. I was like, is this actually controversial? But this person says any smart man at this level would do the same. I agree. You are a rich and famous person. It probably is a good idea to like never be alone with anybody ever, so that there's always witnesses about what happens. And of course, just don't do or say anything that could ever be even remotely considered inappropriate. Oh, nope, there are some people on Twitter that are upset about him saying this. A little bit of a cell turning back in here, but I'm guessing that it's gonna fizzle out. Let's see. Still got 5 minutes left. I tell you what, man, that chart in the S&P 500, that I would be frustrated if I was trading the S&P 500 today. Did any of you guys have success in the S&P over there? Because that just looks like a complete mess. It's actually a little weird in a situation where, you know, the dollar moved a decent amount. Okay, it was only like 10 cents, but it moved. Treasuries, they moved a decent amount. For the equities to be so zigzag sideways. Jeez. It's almost nauseating to look at, because I can just think about times when I would have tried trading that and how, you know, had been so frustrated by it. S&P was a bread and butter setup for us. Okay, I say so. What is the range on that, by the way? Well, let's just use the ruler instead of me trying to measure it myself. Ruler. Let's say from here to here. 31? Oh, it's actually not a bad range. 30-point range is pretty good, is a pretty decent amount. I don't know though, like the reversal there. Ugh. Because that's a quick reversal. At a weird time of day too. Yeah. No, you know what, Trade Moff? You're honestly, your comment kind of bothers me because you say that's like your bread and butter setup. That kind of to me says like my bread and butter setup is taking on extreme risk, you know, in kind of wishy-washy action. Be careful with that one, man. Be careful with that. You should be careful with that one because I've seen many accounts get blown out real quickly with that sort of stuff. You know which way it's going, and there's kind of a trend. Like I totally understand it, kind of going sideways, and well, you can make money from it, but there's some risks with it when it's sideways. This is usually not the best action for retail traders. Should come over here. What's this? Nassim Taleb. Finally, when young people who want to help mankind come to me asking, what should I do? I want to reduce poverty, save the world, and similar noble aspirations at the macro level. My suggestion is never engage in virtue signaling, never engage in rent seeking. You must start a business. Put yourself on the line and start a business. There you go. At Jimmy Oreo, PCE Day is a good day to remind people that inflation was an intentional policy decision. They told us why they were going to do it. They told us when they were going to do it. They initially told us it wasn't enough and they needed to make sure it stuck. No, that's... okay, the way that he's presenting that is kind of like saying, oh, when they said we need to do average inflation targeting, that means that we need to have a little bit of inflation here to kind of like equalize things out. Okay, but nobody in policy wanted inflation to get up to the levels that it did. Okay. I compare all ES traders to And It's Gone from South Park. That's how I feel about cryptocurrencies for sure. You know, the thing is that before the pandemic, the amount that you were risking on micro ES futures was okay. But post that, it really feels like it's just more and more. The further along that this gets, the more that I feel like everybody that I see talking about trading equity indexes is just gambling. I mean, I know that they're trying and everything, but like especially the stuff that I read on Reddit is really kind of like, you guys have no clue what you're doing, do you? It's just no. Like the conversation that always triggers me the most and the one that like I kind of get on the most is when you point out to people the competitive nature of the market and the fact that it's not very difficult at all to move the market and for the market to start to react to certain strategies and so forth. Like we can literally go and track the popularity of certain strategies on social media and watch as they start to do better and better and better as it gets more popular on social media. And then there's like a threshold where it gets too popular and it just loses every time. And we can track that. Like we have specific instances where we can do that. And they don't agree with the retail trader idea of things is that I'm so small that nothing that any of us collectively do matters, and I can just find the pattern that the market does, and the market will always do that pattern. I can make money, and it's just not how it works. It's just not how it works. And it's, you know, when you actually understand the structure of the market and the mathematical properties that come out of that market structure and the strategies that companies use to deal with those properties, and you know the net effect that it has at the meso sphere kind of level on the stocks, you realize that this retail approach to trading is kind of stupid. And once you see it, it's like you can immediately tell when you're talking to other traders if they actually understand what's going on or not. At a good example, somebody was complaining. They said that their guru was complaining about manipulation. Like the market's supposed to go up and then it didn't, so it's manipulation. Well, if you have some idea that like the market is supposed to go up or down based on fundamental information, because you believe that the market is generally efficient, then sure, if it doesn't do the thing that it's supposed to, I can see why you would think that it's manipulation. But the truth is that the market's not efficient. The market just moves based on the orders that are placed into it. Those orders might have absolutely nothing to do with the fundamentals. So if it doesn't go the way that you want it to, doesn't mean there was manipulation. That's just trading. It's just there was a flow that you didn't expect, and you gotta work hard. Hope that next time you're able to predict the orders better. See that freak order flow that screwed you over, right? BBG says hi. Yeah, you know what, man? You came in the wrong time because we're about to leave. We're about to leave. Hunter Sen, if the Fed were truly data outlook dependent and not somewhat constrained by institutional inertia, they would cut next week. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that they should be leaning towards cutting, but I think that there is still some considerable reason to be concerned that the market is still kind of hot. Is Forex a scam? I wouldn't call it a scam, but I do not feel that Forex in general is a very good product for traders, especially day traders. We don't have the information to really have a fair chance at competing in Forex. Forex is really like a very different, even from futures, like stocks, futures, and Forex, that they all have big major differences. And Forex, yeah, like the institutions, is in many respects considered the most difficult, because you're basically like, you're relying on these patterns, and the patterns in Forex can actually be like quite strong, right? But then any money that you make from those patterns can be easily wiped out when a country does something big that causes a big currency move, right? So large institution can maybe get away with that because they make enough money from their market making operations and everything to make up that money. But as a retail trader, it's going to ruin you, right? It's just going to blow your account. You can be finished. So I don't think that Forex is very, very fertile ground for retail traders to dig. I think you want to pick something that you know a lot about, commodity or a stock sector that you know a lot about, and trade those. 31% tax on FNO in India. I don't know that. I wish I knew more about the different regulations in different countries about, like, you know, like where you should invest and how short-term gains are taxed and stuff. But it's too complicated to do it to know this for every country. So. Hey man, I should get going though. I will see you guys a week. We will not be here next week. So enjoy that Federal Reserve meeting without me. I will see you in August. In the meantime, stay excellent.